welcome in when you guys get in. Um, we're gonna begin this. Um, it's funny. I felt like explaining more. Of the post I made on the community tab, just the whole like headache story thing. And also to dive in more on uh how to be aware of the masculine mindedness, and then we're gonna dive into a little bit of the tarot to see what's going on, what you could work on, things of that nature. Regardless, I I've been having weird ear issues and that evolved into a headache today, and I kept feeling and getting the intuitive nudge it was because I wasn't listening to what my feminine um, consciousness was wanting me to pay attention to, the one that's connected to the divine. And I actualized it by, I realized, I should say, not actualized it, I just recently actualized it. But I was realizing and I was understanding and I was saying to myself, oh, I need a rest because I just don't feel good. And my version of resting was to not really take any rest in. It was to do other things to occupy my mind, my masculine thought consciousness, so it would be distracted from what was going on. Um, there was nothing externally that could have been done because this was an internal issue, as all issues are internal. Um, and it's interesting because the more I learn about this, the more I really start digging into it, the more it's actualized. And the more I realize after it's actualized, what's really going on. And it gets funnier and more clever. And it really is just a really funny thing. But regardless, I was laying down and I was starting to fall asleep, and my rational mind itself was like, "Don't fall asleep. You're watching a video." And my intuitive consciousness, the one that's connected to the divine, was like going, "Yo, just fall asleep. You're good." So I fell asleep. I woke up, no pain, nothing. It's all gone. No headache, no earaches, nothing. And that's because and it was funny because the headache was on the left temple, so it was bringing my awareness to my feminine consciousness, to what the divine was telling me, which was to get rest. And then my right ear was the one that was hurting because I was hearing what the divine was saying but ignoring it. Um, and that's what it felt like was happening, was because my version of rest has been defined by escapism due to the problems that I've gone through in the past, and it's a version of escapism. Now, since I'm just a reflection of you, take that into consideration next time you're feeling a muck or something's not working too well on the physical, on your body. Let's say you have like a headache and you've noticed the pain coming from the left or right side. It's because of an action you're taking internally, and the divine's not trying to punish you, your body is not trying to punish you, but bring you more awareness, bring more observation to actually look into what's going on rather than to think what's going on. um, a lot of things you can do a million things on the external and nothing works, and then all of a sudden you do the first idea that you have, which the first idea you get is a feeling from the divine, but you bring the attention to the first idea that you did first, and you realize that first idea actually works. That's because you're aware of the feminine consciousness, but you're not listening. You're not taking the advice of the feminine consciousness, which is really big. Again, the feminine consciousness has no free will. It doesn't need anything. It doesn't need to raise a bar. It doesn't need to maneuver in a certain way. The feminine consciousness is connected straight to God. It doesn't need to do anything. It knows the absolute pyre, which is pure solution to any problem, anything, but your rational masculine consciousness wants to assume and make you believe that oh, it's something else. We could also do this. No. When given direction from the divine, you can take it. You should take it always. Well, I mean, you can. You have the free will to ignore it, and by doing other things, which isn't meant by punishment. It's meant by it's supposed. Well, you'll take it as punishment, but it's more of an awakening that you're going through when you do that. When you start listening actually to your feminine side, because I was thinking about it. And your free will comes not from your feminine consciousness because it's connected to God. It doesn't need free will. It knows the exact full plan. Your masculine consciousness, your thought consciousness, and we use the term consciousness to show that it's two beings of you. Beings are consciousness, parts are not. Your masculine consciousness, your feminine consciousness, the same thing. They are two. Again, you're a twin individual. We're learning this. We're getting this into our system. We're understanding that we are two in one, which makes us three, the Holy Trinity, if you will. Um, but I was thinking about it earlier, and the free will that you have, that your male consciousness, your masculine consciousness, well, your thought consciousness, we should start calling it that instead. Your thought consciousness has has made the ego, because the ego is man-made. It's not of soul. It's made from experiences that you see and processes that you go through. The ego is mechanical, just as thought process, as just as thought consciousness. Excuse me. And I was thinking that because the masculine side of you, the thought consciousness, doesn't want to think that it's a twin individual due to years of programming and conditioning, it has made an ego to protect itself, to diminish everything that the feminine conscious, the divine, has given us and brings to us, despite it being in front of our faces everywhere. There's no such thing as a singularity. You will see this everywhere. You can look at anything, nothing is singular. There is nothing, there is not a single thing on this earth that is one. And I will wait for someone to prove me wrong on that, because it is true. It is factual. You can look anywhere you want. There are two sides, there are two strands. It's all the way down from the smallest bit to the biggest bit. There are always two for a reason, because we are two. We are two in one. That two creates a divinity, a three, a third. You know, three is not one, not two with one added. Three is literally two whole. It's the third. It's the full version. What did I call it? Hold on, because I wrote this down in my notes, and it explained it so much better than I can like remember it. Yeah, here it is. There we go. Three is the union of two. That's what it is. Thank you, Spirit. Because three, that's what it was supposed to be. Because I was writing all this stuff down in my notes. Three is the union of two. Um, and what our masculine mind likes to do, what our thought consciousness, excuse me, I'm going to start calling up thought consciousness. What our thought consciousness likes to do is break things down to a singularity, to feel like it understands it, to then feel like it overpowers it, which is why you think you're one, because your masculine your thought consciousness is rationalizing it, dividing it up into rations, into smaller bits, until it can finally understand itself, when all it really needs to do is look around. Um, why do you think scientists are like getting so surprised and like a little scared to see that, oh my god, these two ions are made up of this one thing, and then this other one thing is made up of other two atoms? It's like because it's trying to tell you that no matter how deep you go fucking down, there's going to be two that makes the full image. Like, you can go down to the lowest bit. It doesn't matter how many times you magnify an image, it's always going to be that way. It like I don't you have to realize this, and it keeps showing itself not as a way of punishment. Again, it's a joke. It's like, hey, stop stressing out. You are literally two things in one. That's just how it is. It's from birth, it's from everything. Like, but you need to realize it. You need to actualize it, you know? You need to really understand that everything comes from two. That thought comes from a feeling, and that feeling is sent from the divine to you. The feeling that the divine gives you is rationed up, it's broken down so that you can understand it, because it can't come into you as a whole thing. It needs to be broken down and then made whole again. because once it's broken down from the divine, it's made whole within you, and then from then on is however you go about it. Um, but the thought consciousness has made this ego as a way for a defense mechanism to ignore and to make excuses for why they observed things a certain way, or why they um, feel like something's going the opposite way. They make an excuse to distort a feeling that's sent from you to from the divine as a pure message. That's why when you get that's why people call it the intuition, the gut feeling. When you get an intuitive nudge, it's a gut feeling. It's an overall body sensation. It's not a thought or a feeling, but that sensation brings about like, oh shit, something's going on. That's the awakening, is when you understand that every feeling you get is caused from the divine and is supposed to be took as not as a thought to then control how you react, but as a thought to allow you to understand why you feel that way. Um, that's why in dangerous situations, people tell you not to panic, because when you panic, you're unable to concentrate. You're unable to really understand what's going on because you're so focused on yourself, which again is like an egoistic thing where your brain goes, I'm the only one that matters. Let me do this. Let me do that. Whenever your intuitive consciousness is trying to warn you, hey, don't do this, which is why the fear and the feeling gets so intense, because it's trying to stop you instead of fuel you. Um, and that's just something I was really thinking about. And it's weird because when you really step into this area of being able to talk about things like this and you start practicing it day by day, just taking baby steps, you begin to realize um how simple it is, but yet how complicated we accidentally make it. Because we still don't know how to fully use it. We still have this, oh, I know better, uh, because of the rational mind itself, which is, again, perfectly fine. The divine made us this way so that we could learn. We're not meant to be perfect. I mean, they could, the divine, mother, father could have made us perfect if they wanted. They made us perfectly imperfect, the two. We're perfect because we're imperfect, because we're still learning, and that's perfectly fine. Like, that's the whole thing. There's no real punishment other than the punishment you'll bring upon yourself in that way. Um, and as well as just the grand awakening that's still happening. People um, waking up to magic existing, which magic is really funny too, because we think magic is this extraordinary. Do I even have? I do, don't I? Somewhere. Somewhere. Hold on. Yeah, I do. Okay, cool. Okay, so anyway, people think magic is this incredible, um, crazy thing that takes like years to master without realizing we've been doing magic since the day we were born. And here, the best example of that is this piece of paper and this pen. I mean, I can even open up this paper too. It's like, it's a blank piece of paper. Awesome. I have the utensil for writing. It's really cool. This is magic 101. I'm about to show you magic that you do day to day that you don't really notice, and it's gonna really make you feel weird, because I mean, it might not. It made me feel kind of stupid when I really like realized it. But it makes you understand like how simple things are. But you see this and everything. I don't. Can I hold this up and do it? I can. I can. Okay. So anyway, so I'm using like my wallet to hold it up. But this right here, this mark on the paper that I have just made, is magic. It was not there before I conceptualized it and then made it exist. That's manifestation. That's magic right there. Simple as that, right? It's that simple. But our conscious mind self our makes it harder to interpret things of this nature. It makes it harder for us to imagine how to do that with bigger things, when it's as simple as you get the idea, you feel the emotion for it, you get the idea, you do it, and then everything's out in the on the 3D. And I even can tell you the thought process I had. I was just feeling, I got a feeling that reminded me of that example. And then instead of talking about it, I then put it to action to show you all on the physical what's going on. That's the 4 step process. It's that simple. But again, when things get quote unquote bigger, and that is seen because of your conscious mindness, your thought consciousness, working off of past ideals and past experiences that make it seem harder when it's not. Which is the whole thing of black magic. Black magic being things that hinder your progress, coming from words or however. Um, it's that it starts from there, just gets bigger and bigger. But at the end of the day, it's exactly as small as it started off before. You just are looking into it deeper and deeper, which again is no problem. You learn more by doing that. But by making it too single, by pinpointing it to an exact thing, is whenever your rational minded self then we'll start tracing back to the first steps. It's like, oh, so this happened to me, so that means this must have happened, and then that means this, and that means that, and then you start building up this tower of rational thoughts, of bits and pieces that weren't supposed to be put together in the first place, because they come from a secondary half that your rational mind isn't looking for. It's like a dog, it's like a hunting dog sniffing for like a trail. You're not really seeing where the trail is leading, it's just sniffing out the trail. It doesn't know what animal it's looking for. It just smells that scent and then goes after it. That's what your rational mind is. That's what your thought consciousness does. It doesn't listen to the intuitive feeling, um, which is what like animals, they don't lack it, but they don't even have like a conscious awareness of it either. But the divine harbors everything on this earth, from literally that piece of paper I wrote on, to you, to your pet dog, to your goldfish, whatever. The divine is in everything. This is the training grounds, the school to show you the divine in everything, and how to really break everything down bit by bit, to understand that it doesn't need to be broken down that small, but understood as a compound words as well work with that same thing, the prefixes, suffixes, whatever. But it's to help you understand that everything's a compound of two things: a feeling and a thought. You wouldn't have any rash thoughts or any rash emotions about anything if you didn't have any irrational thoughts about them first. Um, that's the whole separation. But then you combine them together, because that's what we do on this earth: is we compound everything, we mash them together to make them into two, we make them whole again. That's something that our conscious mind knows as well, but decides to ignore whenever things become logical, which is weird coming from the logical side of yourself. You want to, it's weird because like if you really think about it, you'll be very quick to deny that you are two and one at the very start, because it's not logical. Well, because it doesn't make sense at first. It does, when you think about it, it doesn't make sense. But it's a feeling, it's an understanding that it's everywhere and you're constantly looking at it, which is, it's weird. I don't even know how to fully explain it, but I know what I'm trying to say. Because like you see it everywhere, but then you're very quick to deny when it's happening to you, because you don't want to feel a part. There we go. Thank you, Spirit. Because you don't want to feel a part of something bigger, because you feel like you are the biggest thing on earth, even if you don't feel it. It's a conscious thought pattern that you have, that stretches across everything. Um, which is funny, because in actuality we're nothing, but your rational minded self is scared, because what does it mean to be nothing? And it's like, well, you tell me, because you're existing it right now, you're living what nothing is. What is that for you? That's the whole thing. Anyway, before I go off on a tangent and like scramble someone's brain about that, um but that is why we are here. That's what we're doing, is figuring out. Why did I twist that up? Sorry, I'm over here. I fiddle with, I don't know, because if you notice it, I even talked about it before, like monks and stuff, they'll mess with things in their hand. I'm over here fiddling with my headphone wire because it really distracts this part of your masculine consciousness. It distracts that thought consciousness to try and overthink what you're trying to say, and you're able to actually say what you feel like what you need to say. And that's why you see Buddhist monks and stuff mess with like prayer beads and stuff. I don't, okay, I've not done too much research on Buddhism, so I'm not sure if they understand that or not. I should probably talk to my friend about that because I mean he's a Buddhist. He'd know. But I'm not sure about that. But it definitely is a thing that is practiced because you really need to stop thinking. That's all you were doing since the day you were born is think, 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 not really feeling. Well, I'll take that back. As a child, you felt more than you thought. When you were a child, you thought you were feeling more than you thought. You felt like this was okay. You felt like you could do that. You felt this that way. You felt that way. And then as you grew up, you were told to think a certain way, think in a pattern, um, that at the end of the day constricted you, um, not only from doing what you wanted, but from the part of you that was connected to yourself as a child. And that's why children are pure. That's why when you see like a baby or something, they're pure. They are based off feelings. They don't think they're hungry, they feel they're hungry. So then they react in the idea that they're hungry. You know, they react with the burst of crying or like walking up to you and screaming, I'm hungry, you know, because they don't think that they're hungry. You don't have to sit there and think for 30 minutes about what they want. They just want food. They know that they're hungry. They have the idea that they're hungry, so they go for it. And that's what we are learning how to come back to, is that understanding of you shouldn't have to think about what you are. You should just be able to feel what you are. um, and then you are everything. So why would you have to think about everything if you already are everything? It's all a feeling. We all have different paths, but we all have this. We all have different paths, different destinies, but we come from the same source, and we're sent here for the same reason, to remember that we are a twin individual and to live out our destined path in life. Um, and if you're here watching this video and like doing this, not even really doing this work, but just understanding or just listening to this is part of destiny, is understanding that you're a twin individual and not an individual. It's the steps that you need to take, which is why it takes lifetimes of lifetimes to even understand this stuff, because we because it's literally unlearning eons of trauma. Well, not eons, maybe century, maybe like a few centuries. I wouldn't say eons, I'd say centuries for sure. um but it's all because they didn't want us to. No, well, no, it might have been an eon or so. I'm gonna say eon. It feels like it's been an eon or so, because it all started with like in Egypt, whenever they ran in and kicked out all the Egyptians, the gypsies who knew all this knowledge beforehand, and then um had to keep this sacred knowledge hidden, because if you dare spoke out about this and spirituality, you were burnt at a stake or hung in front of your fucking family, and then your family was like, "Yay, you're dead because you don't agree with us." That bullshit right there. That's the trauma that we're breaking. It genuinely, it actually stems from that. It stems back from. That's why I talk about Salem witch trial trauma so much. Is it stems back from that. It stems like you were burned at stake because you knew the truth, and then like instead of nowadays your family disowning you, you were just killed and executed off bat. Now you're disowned by family. Now your family lies about you and does spell work on you to keep you locked in a single-minded area. Um, and something that I've learned and still am learning, is that tarot cards and tarot are different. Tarot was a religion, and tarot cards are showing you that religion through art, just as literally everything else on this earth does. Um, Life imitates art, and art imitates life. That's the big rule that we learn. And overlooking that, and we overlook a lot because, listen, it's in our face so much that we're like, yeah, yeah, I know, but you don't really know until you really start looking at it. But tarot at one point was a religion. I don't know the original name of it, But it talks all about it within the tarot cards, and when you really understand it, it really shows you. And it's what I'm being taught. It's what I'm working on with the whole the graph point thing that I'm working on. Um, but it's all there. And it, it uses references from the Bible, because whenever Christianity took over, um, it hid a lot of the stuff that tarot talks about within Bible verses, within imagery in the Bible, and parables and stuff of that nature. It's all there. It's in front of us. We actualize it, we understand it, but we're not living it. And that's the issue. Um, it has nothing to do with the Ten Commandments. I mean, well, it does, because, well, you know what I mean. Like, the Ten Commandments aren't the only thing in the world, and the laws of Ma'at aren't the only thing either. Those are guidelines to help you connect to your feminine side, to remind you that you're not an animalistic being who goes out and does these treacherous things, but to remind you that there is a counterpart of you that had to have come up with those things in order for them to become logical, because logic doesn't come from nothing. Logic comes from experience, and what we experience for years and years and years is abuse for feeling emotions, abuse against women, abuse against people speaking out their emotions, abuse against fucking just everything, really. That's all we've experienced for the last however fucking long. And now we're coming out of that weird abusive shell, where we're poking our heads back out of the dirt and being like, oh, the world really isn't that bad. It's just my experiences that the world has given me that's awful. And it's like, well, not even though it's the experiences that I've given myself that have been awful. I don't want to blame the world, because the world is perfectly fine. It's the fact, though, that we want to define everything. And defining things then makes us give the right or wrong opinion of things, which then gives us a split, which is what the what's the rash, which the oh my god, what's the thought consciousness wants us to do. I'm getting my tongue tied, but it's what the thought consciousness wants us to do, is to split things up, because it needs to understand both sides, and then it doesn't want to put them back together. They just want to keep the sides separate. That's what your rational brain does. It's like, okay, so you're over here and you're over here, and this is good. Well, no, because they were together at one point, and then you rip them in half. So put them back together. They coexist for a reason. It's like, it's everywhere, I'm telling you. But regardless, I really wanted to talk about that, because talking about it and then experiencing it, putting it one on one, is different things. Um, it really is. Your your intuitive mind is so much more advanced than you would ever think. The feminine nature inside of you, the nurturing side of you, knows exactly what you need. That's why it doesn't force you to do anything. That's why it's given your masculine side the free will to do as it pleases, because it knows that you're going to have to learn. So why would it force something down your throat? It's not going to let you learn. That's what Father's for. Father's there to help you learn over time, while Mother is there to nurture you through time. Um, but yeah, I really want to talk about that, because that was not necessarily, it was pretty interesting, not gonna lie, but it wasn't like a big shocker or anything. It was more of a moment where I woke up, realized all the pain was gone, and I was just like, well, fuck, you know what, I here I am telling people to do it, and then yet I'm still not doing it for the most simple things ever, which is the rational thinking, the thought consciousness mind of myself feeling like it can do something. Whenever you can't think of a feeling, you must feel a feeling before it becomes a thought. But I just thought that was interesting to talk on, because it it was very much, yeah, with judgment. It was my wake up call for sure. And this might be a wake up call as well, but this is definitely, um it's time to talk. Let your intuitive self talk. Um, and we have on the judgment card as well, because we'll talk about it since it came out. We have the representation of your feminine, your masculine, and then you in the middle. And you're arising from your grave. You're arising from your slumber, not your passing away, but your slumber. You're waking up. That box is the same square, the same box that's tied to the devil card that the masculine and feminine are bound to. It rises you up from from that, and it awakens you to what you need to do. Um, and as you notice, the masculine has his hands together and eyes closed, head directly up, hearing the emotional side, hearing what the feminine side has to give you, which is by the feminine's hands are stretching out to the masculine, but head is looking up at the divine as well. And this is your higher consciousness. It's not an angel, it's your highest consciousness. Anything again with wings on the tarot deck, on the Rider Waite tarot deck, I should say, is a higher consciousness, is a higher knowing, and that's literally your higher self, if you wish to call it that, or the divine, however, telling your feminine consciousness, whatever side you want to point at, the heart or the left temple, to give information to your masculine consciousness or your thought consciousness to then give to you so that you're able to awaken, and be birthed again, be born in new light, child's, refreshing, brand new energy. You're just waking up. It's That's why it's called the wake up call. That wake up call is a feeling sent from an idea from the divine for your consciousness, your masculine side consciousness, your thought consciousness to recognize, and see. Oh my lord. Uh, yeah. Goodness, I love digging into these cards, but it wins me out so much. But we have the Empress, the Emperor, and the Four of Pentacles, and immediately the way I seen this, and it was weird that I even seen it this way too, but that's how it was drawn to me, is the Empress is by herself. The Empress is here. You know that you are the Emperor and the Empress combined. Well, you're the Empress and the Emperor combined. Get used to, familiarize yourself with saying the feminine first before the masculine. That's another way to make yourself acknowledge that your emotions are over your feelings. It's not Jack and Jill, it's Jill and Jack, because Jill is the first. The female comes first, and it's not like, oh, because culture said so. No, it's because it's in biology. It's all around you, but your thought consciousness has been trained to say that man before woman, which makes no sense, because without woman there would be no man. You can even look at it at the point of woman has more words in the name than man, because woman was more important than man. You can look at it that way as well. It's not like a conservative weird thought, or it's not anything to do with politics, even though that's what we've been trained to think. It's just nature. Like, let's get real with it, But anyway, we have the Emperor and the Four of Pentacles, and these two cards stuck out to me really strongly. It's because your Emperor side has a lot of control, a lot of grasp, a lot of hognish to it. I don't know why I want to say hognish. I don't even know what that word means. But it's very much the controlling element over your life, while the Empress is kind of just on her own, knowing what's best. That's why the Emperor's land is barren and almost scorn looking, while the Empress's land is not barren, has a lot of wheat, which represents wealth and prosperity and lots of greens. Followed by the Three of Pentacles and Temperance, which is again you. The purple is you needing to listen. And even here with the Four of Pentacles, the purple being you and the red being there, you're choosing, or you're allowing yourself to be ruled by the thought consciousness, by the masculine mindedness. But it's time for you to allow your feminine and masculine your feminine and masculine consciousness to work together. That's literally why the one in the feminine, it looks like she's wearing the hood of shame, or just like a hood to cover herself up, because hoods were meant for shame. That's why they were invented. You would cover yourself up. You would cover your face if you were ashamed. That's like the whole thing. That was the whole point. But that's why she is in that, and why the masculine's in some sort of holy garnet. But yet the feminine has the plan in her hand for how it's supposed to work. And it's because what your masculine wants to do is ignore the plan that's given to you from the divine and have you work on something completely else that it feels like is going to give the greater answer. And if you even notice here too, the plan that the feminine, I don't know, you might have to look this card up and even see it, but the plan that the feminine is showing yourself there is, it has the exact same sketch as the temple as it looks. And it's because you're supposed to be following the plan, and the masculine side of you, your thought consciousness, is observing you do it. That's the whole point of time, is you observe it. You don't work on time, you observe time. You work on nurturing yourself. You see what I mean? And then that's your path to enlightenment with temperance. That's your balance. That's you in the middle with the wings and the triangle. It's all about the Holy Trinity. You, your feminine self, your masculine self, your feminine consciousness, excuse me, your masculine consciousness, and then yourself, all working in harmony. One foot on land, one foot in the water. Water represents the feminine, the holy, the sacred, the divine. The land representing the physical, the masculine, the work effort. All the way to the path of the crown. You're pouring from your you're pouring from the cup with the land into the cup that's surrounding the water. So you're pouring from your masculine to your feminine. You're allowing your masculine to look towards your feminine to be able to reach the goal of the crown for enlightenment. That's the whole point. And I don't know how else to describe it without making it, I don't know if it sounds complicated or if that's just me, but it's not that complicated. It really is just you allowing your feelings to come through. It feels complicated because of just how long we've been forced to ignore our feelings. And even when you feel like feeling your feelings, you really don't, because you're afraid of how other people are going to feel, which is a thought that blocks you from feeling your feelings. And it's a pressure, it's a boundary that we put on ourselves a lot, which is why whenever that thought comes up, you need to soothe yourself. Whenever you respond to someone to tell them your experience or to tell them what you know, it's not argumentative. You have just had experiences in the past that have proven to be argumentative because people from your past did not have the same conscious awakening as you did, so it was perceived as a conflict due to their actions, and they perceived it as a conflict first, which wasn't your fault. You decided to just speak your mind and speak how you felt, which led to a conflict because someone doesn't agree with how you feel, which is not your fault. That is something for them to take up. But that reaction that you were given makes your thought consciousness really home in on, oh, you can't speak your truth. You have to be scared of everything now, which is why people are afraid of speaking. It's the throat chakra blockage. Yes, it comes from external sources, but when you stop allowing certain people to stop you from saying what you want, that's there to show you that you can also stop yourself from stopping yourself from saying what you desire to say as well. Because if you can speak your truth to someone else, you better be able to speak your truth to yourself. And that's really the bottom line, because that person you just told the truth to was you. Again, going back to the simplest form of this, your subconscious doesn't know the difference between you or someone else. So when you speak out loud, you're not really speaking to someone else, you're speaking to both yourself and the other person. Because it's not like when you speak, you don't hear yourself. It's not like when you speak, it's a one-way connection to them. No, you know what you're saying. You hear what you're saying. So it's not just to someone else, it's to you as well. Which is, again, the whole two is you. It's your feminine side expressing itself and giving the idea to your masculine. And your masculine thinks it's doing this big grandeur thing, when in actuality, the feminine's trying to wake up the masculine by letting it hear what it wants to say. It's a really funny thing. It's this big old cycle that we're stuck in. And again, it's something that we know, but we're not actualizing it. We're not really honing in on it whenever we could. Which is like, again, it's the beauty of life. It's the cycle. It's it's going into the unknown. Is this the 5 and the 6? Okay, because I just know. We're in for two tapped in here. I said, is this the 5 and the 6? The 5 and the 6 of cups. Again. Oh God, Spirit, you are really feeding me tonight. The 5 of cups though. We talked about the Five of Cups before. The Two Cups in the back is the Two of Cups, the main idea that you had, and the Three of Cups is you choosing a different path. You choosing a different path. Going back to what I said about using your feminine, using your masculine to speak out. You speaking out might not have given the results that you wanted to have, which led you down a different path. So instead of telling yourself, which is what the divine wants to do. The divine doesn't want you to really tell anyone anything. The divine wants you to acknowledge this yourself, and sometimes you need to acknowledge it yourself by expressing it to someone else, and then it clicks, which is part of the divine plan. But again, in the past, you did this, you experienced a very bad reaction. Well, what you deemed to be a bad reaction. It wasn't anything that really helped you. You seen how the other person reacted. It made you feel uncomfortable, whatever. But then it left you to come back to yourself. And I didn't mean whatever in a dismissive form. I was just trying to skip ahead. But the Six of Cups, it leads you back. Now your masculine, your action has to go back to your emotions. The masculine is now wearing the hood of shame and going to your feminine side, who is open and ready to accept the masculine coming back so that it can be like, hey, you did what you felt was right. So let's actually soothe ourselves now, because what you felt was right was a thought. And what I told you to do, what I gave you, though you still did it, which is very brave of you, you didn't do it in the way that I intended, in which the way the divine intended. You did it the way you wanted to do it. And that's just the cycle that we are collectively stuck in. Whether you, and I mean, I can even say with this message, if you don't like the messages that come out of readings, but yet you sit and listen to them, or you feel, or you think that this isn't for you, or you think a certain way about certain messages, it's less about let me say it this way. The reason why most tarot readers, they'll say if it doesn't resonate, if it doesn't resonate, don't take it, is because the readings that they're doing aren't interpersonal readings. They're energetic readings, and the energy can do whatever it pleases. The energy again has two sides. Using traditional tarot methods, it's less about taking what resonates, because truly this is all internal, but it's about listening to what feelings these bring up, and then not rationalizing those feelings, because rationalizing would be to break them up and divide them, but to allow them to sit as a whole feeling, to understand them as they are. Um, because what we end up doing is complicating things, turning it into a machine. We feel like if we do something, if we feel like, I don't know, it's weird, because what we're not seeing is our masculine side in everyone, while also seeing, not our, goodness, I gotta stop saying the word side as well. It's complicated. Not really, but we need to stop allowing our masculine consciousness to take the leading role of something that it's supposed to be following, which is the feminine consciousness. And that takes years to master. But as long as you acknowledge it, it's okay. Because with the Five of Cups to Six of Cups, that's just telling you right there that failure is bound to happen with this, because you're learning it. It's like riding a bike. You're not gonna get on a bike and immediately ride off with it. You're gonna fall a few times. You're gonna need help. You're gonna need your training wheels, your XYZ. That's why the Six of Cups is here, to show you that you can always come back and be like, it's fine. And, I didn't do it this way, but you know what? I learned this and I learned that. So now that I've learned these things, I can now pay attention to you and use this experience as an example, instead of using past experiences with other people, instead of using myself as the learning tool. Goodness gracious, there's a lot to talk about. Let me tell you, because it's beautiful. It really is, because this is really why we came here to do. This is our destined path. It was part of our destiny to learn these types of things, whether people want to, believe it or not. It is what the divine instructs, and you have the free will to ignore. You have the free will to pass on by, but in one lifetime or another, you'll end up with this same message popping up again, which is the beauty of it. Um, and it's always going to be around you. It's always going to be there to show you um, that that you're not as separate as you think. And the things that you say because you're taught them, but you don't say them because you truly know them. Um, I don't really. I mean, the Ten of Swords came out, I guess. So the Ten of Swords is just like, yeah, it's just your thoughts. It's your thoughts really punishing you. So don't allow your thoughts to punish you heavily. It's like don't allow all these split up thoughts um to get to you. And I'm seeing like the Ace of Swords almost. Like the Ace of Swords is divine clarity, it's the crown. It's almost like you want to split that sword up into a bunch of other swords to have multiple other ideas, a bunch of smaller ideas I should even say, that the divine gives you, and then all those end up falling back on you and hurting you because it's not what the divine intended. But again, it's like it's not what they intended, but it's what they know is going to happen. It's bound to happen. It's inevitable. It's something you can't really control, but it's something you're supposed to learn from. Um, and again, with free will, you can take as long as you want with this. And every day is a learning day, and it's okay. It's like it's just fine. Like, don't stress about it. Really and wholly, do not stress about trying to make your feminine conscious come to surface, because that's not what's going to make it. That's going to cause thoughts of all sorts of, I don't want to say the word negative either. A bunch of responses and thoughts that are not beneficial to your growth. Um, really. But just remembering that it's all just a journey and you're on this journey for eternity. It's just how it is. And though it's one of those things. Okay, thank you, Jesus. I was getting lost and you put that on me. Okay, so don't worry um, about not completing this mission, quote unquote, whatever, this lifetime or however, because what your brain does, um, what your brain does and what your soul remembers, because your soul's internal and your brain creates, is it will remember these lessons from the past life. Your body disintegrates, but everything else stays. That's why the Egyptians removed the brain and kept the heart within. Um, but in the next life or the life after that, or however, it doesn't matter how long it takes, you're going to take these lessons from past lives and it's going to be ingrained in you. You're going to forget everything and then remember what the divine told you. Remember the divine's do, like the whole point of it. And then throughout lifetimes or even throughout years or however this works for you, because we're all on different journeys and different thought patterns and different elevations of how quickly we learn and whatever, or not even learn, but how quickly we grasp things. It then becomes more and more obvious to the point to where we're actually able to get back. That's the whole thing that the Mayans were waiting for us to do. The Mayans predicted that all this was going to happen. And I mean, fuck, they knew that Saturn had rings without a telescope. It was something that we apparently need all sorts of technology and stuff to understand, when everyone before us knew what was going on, and now we're rediscovering it, not relearning it, not doing anything other than rediscovering it, because it's just been lost. It's been forbidden. That's why it's called the occult knowledge. It's forbidden to be known. Forbidden, why? Because religion says so. Because the higher powers say so. They don't want us to really dig deep in within ourselves and to know these evil secrets. Evil secrets meaning we're literally just two people within inside of each other who are conjoined twins, and share a vessel. That's apparently forbidden to know, but it's the truth. So they outlaw the truth and feed us lies, and then they tell us lying's bad, but we're being lied to every day. So I don't know. Like at some point, it's one of those things where you're looking at it, it's like, huh. So we can't lie, but you can lie. And if we lie, we're in trouble. But if you lie, we're not in trouble, because collectively, um, which is the majority. Collective is just like a group, you know, the group of people that they've created and conditioned over time doesn't understand or doesn't see. I'm using Florida water spray. I just felt like it. Um, but regardless, that's that's kind of what this reading was about. A little bit of a personal experience to help you learn and connect yourself with it as well as just knowing some more knowledge of just going down this path of a deeper understanding and in reality as well. um Stopping yourself from past cycles, like let's say, because I mean, I'm just gonna tell you, because for me, I got tired. I got so tired of watching readers talk about this karmic path and shit. It's at some point it just gets abysmal. It's like, yeah, you're laughing and it's like, haha, they're saying funny words, but at some point it gets abysmal because that's all they talk about, and it's because they're stuck in a cycle, which isn't wrong. You know, everyone needs everything, and the cycle is that they, instead of branching out and speaking more in depth on things, they wish to keep things rational and separated. And that, again, that's fine, because without the separation, there would be no reason for unification. That's the whole thing. So it is beautiful and stuff, but at some point, it just gets so annoying to hear about. And I personally got fed up with it. And for me to be a teacher, to be a leader, I had to make a change myself. And it's how it is. And when you actually, because here's the funny thing, here's the beauty of it. There's like, there's the, there's the 3D matrix, right? Which is everything happening outside of us. And then there's the internal matrix that is what we are composed of. That then, instead of breaking out of it, we rewire it. We have to rewire our motherboard in order to free ourselves from that matrix, and then we're actually closer to the divine rather than thinking we're closer to the divine, all because Samantha said that the black magic is backfiring. You know what I mean? um because the black magic, or undesirable result that was sent towards you or said about you is broken because you're not feeding into that undesirable result, which would be for you to lay down or to die somewhere in a hole because they don't like you, or, oh, I hate this person so much. And now that you're not hating yourself as much as they hate you, that's like the spell broken. That's as simple as it gets. That's what I've always tried to at least talk about on this channel as well. But at some point, you just have to really grow and be more aware. But again, steps are needed. So it's not to put any, you know, because everything in this earth is good. It's like, this is the thing that you really have to realize as well, is even the criminals that are doing the worst, like the worst, like people that go out and like murder people daily, it's gonna, if they were good, it's good for a good cause. Without that happening, there would be no like attention to it. There'd be no punishment for a thing of that nature. Oh, no one does that, so that's impossible. You know what I mean? You don't think every day that people are doing that, but then it becomes aware, and it's like, oh shit, so now we need to do something about that because it is happening. So even the worst people in this world are doing it for a good reason, and you just really have to come to terms with that. The world will keep ticking. The people will do whatever they please to. It's their free will. But allow yourself to take your free will and really go search. We're seekers. We're here to learn. We're in school 24/7. And everything we learn leads us down the path, but that path, no matter what path you take, leads us to the same source, the divine. It doesn't matter where the fuck you go or what you do in life. You're going to die, you're going to be in a grave, and you're going to go back up to the mother and then spit back down on this earth. That's the cycle. Doesn't matter what you do. That's the thing. Whatever path you take, go for it, but just know that you're going to be back here, not as a punishment, but because you have to learn. And learning is infinite. There's always things to learn from. There's always something to learn from. But that's that I wanted to tell you all and give to you in partial reading. But yeah, I hope this was able to help enlighten, spread some more knowledge. I love talking about shit like this. This is something that I've just learned so much about it throughout my youth, and then now as I've like experienced more life, there's more people around me that also dig this stuff too. So it's awesome to see that it's not just something that's remained hidden. Like people other than me are actually going out trying to find some truth in all this smoke and mirror bullshit that's going on around us, and we're really trying to like heal, and we're taking the right steps no matter how big or small they are. It doesn't matter, we're all taking the right steps. But I love you all to the moon and back so much. If you're wanting a book or a reading or whatever, hit me up. I'm also working on another book. It's going to take me a little bit longer to make, um, but it's going to be talking more about the more of like how to forgive yourself, more to like how to actually interact and listen to the feminine consciousness within you, the intuitive consciousness, because um, it's needed. Like it's informative. I like making informative shit like that. But regardless, I love you all to the moon and back, tenfold and forever. Thank you for the likes, comments, shares, subscribes, donations, the ears, the attention, just everything. Like it means the world to me. Um, you wouldn't be here without yourself, and I wouldn't be here without you either. So kudos to that. But I love y'all so much to the moon and back, tenfold and forever, and I see you later.